Ooh. There you go. No viewers, that's what we want.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's happening?
Well, it says.
I know, I think it's just because it's not quite 7 o'clock yet.
There we are.
There you go, yeah.
So what it's going to do is it's going to beam onto whoever's talking. It's going to beam them onto the screen. So there's apparently 7 people waiting. So we'll give it 5 minutes and see if anyone's logging on.
Oh, yes, you're live.
And
Yeah.
okay.
I think
Right,
everyone
cool. So we've got
starts.
people logging on. So I think quickly to introduce it, we've been asked by a number of makers. So obviously I'm Jack, that's Kate. We run the magazine We Are Makers. And through a lot of chitter chatter online, and we've been asked by a number of makers how we navigate the GPSR and IOSS situation with Europe, especially the UK being outside it and any other countries outside Europe. So we employ the services of EUify, which is run by Daran and Kevin, who are on this call, who'll be able to introduce themselves in a minute. And we're just going to give them a chance to run through everything that they do for us GPSR-wise. There's no point in us trying to tell you what it is because these guys know it inside out. So much so that since we came on with you, Darren, when did we come off with you for IOSS? Maybe a year ago?
Yeah.
And then GPSR 3-4 months ago, and we've had no issues. So I personally, and I'm sure Kate would back this up, think they're a really good bet. And they're certainly here to give some advice. There is a chat box on the side. Any questions whatsoever, do let us know. Give us a thumbs up if you can hear us.
Quick little thing. Is there any way that you can split the screen up so you can see all of us at the same time, or is it just one person? This is the first time we've ever done this, so bear with us.
There's a tile button, I think, so you can see all 4 of us.
A tile button on the screen.
That's what I'm on, so I can see all 4.
I can see that, but I can't see that on YouTube when I'm looking at it.
Ah, okay. So just does it fixate on the person who's talking?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It seems to at the moment, yeah. And Rebecca says she can hear us, so we can at least hear us, but you might not be able to get the tiles. I will try and work that out as the guys are speaking. But other than that, I'm going to hand it over to yourself, Darren and Kevin, to introduce yourselves and let us know a little bit more about GPSR. So some of the questions we've been getting asked, just to kind of introduce it, is stuff like digital products, costs, what's all involved, and just generally people want to know a bit more about it. As we spoke to you, Darren and Kevin, about it, there's so much fluff about it online, and we just really want to cut to the chase with it. So yeah, please take it away.
Okay, so EUify, who we are, we're a British-run intermediary based in the Netherlands. I've been here for about 22 years now. We set up EUify like 4 years ago to help British businesses. Obviously, we weren't Brexiteers at all. We could see that the damage that this could do to the country and so on. And obviously, regardless of your political viewpoint, if you're running a business, it's a lot harder now than it ever was. These legislations about GPSR and IOSS aren't Brexit benefits, but it actually affects all the countries in the world who are either importing goods into the European Union. Something like GPSR affects all European businesses as well. So it's not, it's just that you don't need a responsible person. We'll come on to those sort of details a bit later. So we're an intermediary based in The Hague. As I say, we've been here for sort of about just over 4 years, doing mostly sort of IOSS, setting up companies, doing all sorts of different things. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I came up with one of the first iPhone accessories. I sold it in Walmart in America, and different parts of Europe as well. So I've even done Macworld. I've done all sorts of different things. We've done an environmental project a couple of years ago as well. So yeah, so I'm a bit of an entrepreneur, want to do some other stuff with my life as well. So I really sort of understand that we're not just sort of techies or administrators, consultants type of thing. We do sort of, we know that, you know, we want businesses to run, and you know, if you're proactive in everything, the money, you know, like everything, money comes as a byproduct of a job well done, and that's what we want you to do. Is you know, trade in Europe, keep trading. It's not that difficult. I know, like everything, it's once you know how to do it, then it's not, you know, then it's not that difficult. But trust us, we take this type of we take these away from you, so we do it, so you don't have to. So something like IOSS. Probably we were talking a little bit before. Probably the IOSS and GPSR. They would take you less than sort of 10-15 minutes a month to administrate, because we do all the work. We present it to you. This is what you have. You sign it off, and then it's gone. So obviously that does come with a little of a cost, but obviously we know that having you on board, in keeping in business, is going to benefit you, and then that benefits everybody in the market and so on. So that's a little bit of an introduction of to what we do. The GPSR obviously is a new sort of it's relatively new. It actually came in sort of 18 months ago. Unfortunately, now it's in December last year, it's come law. So Kevin will go over some of the details of that in a little bit more detail, but that's sort of the nuts of it. All goods now coming into the European Union need some sort of safety person inside. The laws on GPSR, they're exactly the same for European companies as well. So as I said, the only thing is you don't need that responsible person, which obviously isn't that. That's not the Brexit benefit as such. But this is also for the European companies. Obviously, I'm sure there's quite a lot from the crafting sector obviously listening today. They are probably using Etsy and all those type things. Obviously, the big marketplace platforms are under pressure to make sure that people comply, which obviously is probably why you're a little bit like you're here as well. And obviously, it looks a little bit of a nervous type thing that you're going to get threatened to get kicked off and all these type things off these platforms and so on. You will get warnings before that happens, but generally over the next sort of 6 months to a year, probably it's going to be forced on you to actually comply with the rules and so on. We don't know what type of fines these type of the big platforms are going to take, but new people coming to the market will be forced, you know, will have to abide by these rules coming in. So just a quick one about the GPSR. Obviously, this is a safety regulation. I'll give you a quick example about in the Netherlands. We have lots of bikes. Lots of bikes have been coming in, especially the e-bikes. The e-bikes come in, and the law is over here that bikes aren't supposed to go over 25 kilometers an hour, and you've got 10-year-old kids on Asian imported goods doing 45 kilometers an hour. Obviously, it's a safety issue. These are the type of things they want to stop. The European Union have just made a blanket about, you know, covering all products, because they don't know what's happening in the future, and that's the main thing, is that the legislation covers the future products as well as the products which are already on the market and all those type of things. So I'll just go over so I don't sort of flip between the two of us. There's a couple of big things, sort of rumours about the GPSR, which I'll just go over. There was a rumour about that this only applies to new products on the market. Unfortunately, that's just unfortunately sort of a wishful thinking type of from people that need to comply with those rules. There's an Article 51, which actually is a transition period which means that goods that had already been ordered, which were coming into the to the European Union when the legislation came in on the 13th of December, wouldn't be hindered of those goods. When people are saying about placing goods on the market, what they mean is the European market on an individual basis. So if it was sitting in a warehouse in the European Union on the 13th, it's already on the market. If it's sitting in a warehouse in the UK, the US, Australia, it's not on the market on an individual basis. That means it doesn't comply, and you'll need to employ a responsible person. So, so that was probably one of the biggest rumours, because people are saying, yeah, okay, this is already on the market. When they say on the market, it's the EU market on an individual basis only. So hopefully that one's cleared that one up. Anyway, I'll stop going on this one, and I'll let Kevin go over some of the details and even some of the questions which Jack.
So very quickly before we move on, Kevin, I just want to clarify that there with what you said, Darren. So it's the case that even if you're producing the same product, the same piece, you know, say it's the same painting, for example, that you're still producing in 2 years' time, that does not comply just because you've made it beforehand. It only complies in the fact of when that specific piece has been made and entered the UK, correct?
So yeah, the EU. So yeah, so as
yeah,
soon
the
as
EU,
it's
sorry.
reached, yeah. So as soon as it's coming into the EU, that means it's been placed on the market as an individual product. So regardless if you've got 100 million in stock somewhere else and saying that piece has already been on the market, no, it's on an individual basis, and that's the European law. Hopefully I'll try and get some text out on that, which actually comes from the article. We've got the Article 51, which actually is a really small piece of text, to be honest. But the definitions of making available on the market are pretty clear. And I know it's European speak. The problem is the European Union, they use legislation and they use words which can be interpreted completely different, because obviously from our point of view, both, you know, from outside the union and inside the union, market just means the whole world market to us. Yeah. But when you look at the definition, remember the European Union aren't catering for the whole world. All their definitions are about them only, and the laws that they have, not everybody else out there and so on, because obviously they can't do that because of just because obviously the legislations in every 200 plus countries are completely different, so they only specify. But that market, when they talk about the market, it is only the EU market.
Great. Kevin, can you take us through a little bit more about GPSR in itself, because it's obviously yourself we dealt with throughout, and,
yeah,
and
of course.
for us it was a really easy thing to do.
First of all, it's the general product safety regulation. So safety is its core, and I just want to find that it covers all consumer products. I'm going to just go through a list of the ones it doesn't actually adhere to. So these are exclusions. So medical products for human and veterinary use, food and feed, living plants and animals, products of plants and animals relating to their future reproduction, antiques, equipment on which consumers ride or travel, and aircraft and their parts used for specific government or rescue operations. So we wanted to say that because we're in a crafting situation, hopefully here, it won't apply to any of you guys. So unfortunately, no exclusions. It also doesn't cover anything that's got a CE mark. In UK, we've got the UKCA, which was the CE mark before we left Brexit. So anything you got as a CE mark to, GPSR doesn't cover. So GPSR was actually it was legislation to cover everything, those things I excluded, and basically everything that didn't have a CE mark, because it's got its own legislation for safety, and so people put extra provisions in there to keep those items safe. So this is a blanket everything else that covers all of that, and unfortunately, well, yeah, all the crafting stuff that we're probably going to be talking about today will be in that legislation. So unfortunately, you can't get out of it that way, unfortunately. So because it's basically, most of the people I think we are listening today will be the manufacturers of the products. And for GPSR, and when you port into the EU, you are deemed always to be the manufacturer of that product. Doesn't matter where you got it from. You are basically you're exporting it into the EU. You're actually giving it to somebody, and so you've got to take that responsibility of ensuring the safety of that product or whatever the products you're actually you're handing over, and that covers new, used, repaired, reconditioned items as well. So you can understand what Darren was talking about, Article 51. They wouldn't have a section in there talking about reconditioned or used products being covered by GPSR. If you can have a product that it's been 30 years, being sold, it could be 30 years old, but a brand new product isn't covered by GPSR, because you've already sold it once. So you can understand, people say, well, maybe our product isn't actually, actually included in it. Unfortunately, it probably well is. So the key other thing about GPSR is safety, and safety means that the product is going to be safe in its use, and also they talk about a use is under normal conditions, and also under a use that it could maybe accidentally be used for. We'll go into that a bit later on with the detail there, but so how do you make sure a product is safe? So at EUify, we get people to do a risk analysis of their products, and this risk analysis really is looking at to see if the product can actually be dangerous. Any key things there. Obviously, some things are if you make cards, for example, your risk assessment is going to be negligible. It's how much, apart from a paper cut, of course, how much risk can there possibly be with that? But we've got some clients that make supplements, for example. So the risk analysis for a supplement where someone consumes, it's obviously going to be much bigger than someone who actually makes card or something much more simple. So your EU rep, whoever you can go forward, will probably ask you to will create a risk analysis procedure that you will go through, and you're going to use this going forward for all your new products. You can also retrospectively use that and for your old products as well, because obviously you're still going to be selling them on the market, so you're going to be wanting to make sure that they're safe. So as part of an onboarding scheme for GPSR, whoever you use to be your EU rep is going to ask you to give them a product list, and you'll go through your product list, and you'll go through it and look for products that make sure they're safe, and obviously make sure that they're they can be okay, and you're going to basically document that, and that documentation is what you give then to your EU rep, because they need to hold that information, because if there's any issues further on down the line, and something needs to be a product recall needs to be done, then they're going to someone's going to want to find out what you've done to make sure that what you've sold to EU is safe. And so this is the technical documentation that the EU asks you to do and give to your EU rep. There's a number of different things there that you might have to create for this technical documentation, but your rep will help you through that documentation being created. Sorry, Jack, you got.
No, that's all right. So I think one of the things that we've seen a lot of people are concerned about is we talk about all this technical documentation. Obviously, Kevin, yourself and I and Kate and Darren, we've been through this on our first phone call. So to us, it probably seems bridging on the point of being obvious. So say, for example, I'm a weaver, let's say, or a woodworker, like I'm making furniture. What sort of technical documentation should I be providing you? I believe in our case, for example, we print magazines. So it's our paper, stock, and our ink. And then the risk assessment is it may seem silly and facetious, but the risk assessment quite literally is don't eat this magazine. It's not for human consumption. What about if give us an example for a woodworker. Someone's made you a table. What does that look like from a GPSR point of view?
So that's obviously a bespoke piece of work that they've created a table for you. So from a point of view of a table, things like sharp edges potentially could be an issue. You obviously don't want to have an unfinished product where someone could get splinters. But obviously, let's face it, if you're good work, if you're good with your wood, you're going to be making that product as smooth and as nice as possible. There could potentially be something if it's painted. You wouldn't paint that with lead paint, for example. So when you're actually making your product, you're going to be obviously getting a lot of supplies in, and those supplies would you would if you're making it, so the paint you could ensure that isn't lead based, that is it's going to be safe for the use of the table. So these are the things that you might have to think about. Again, a furniture, it's obviously got a specific use as well. If you've got any upholstery on the furniture, for example, pillows, things like that are built into it. In the UK, there's legislation about flammability of those particular things. So those are the safety things that if it's basically what you do for the UK for safety is pretty much identical to what you're going to do in the EU for safety. So if you've got a label on there saying it's a flammable, for example, the pillow part of your, or maybe you did a chair, you're going to have to still put that on your safety information for GPSR compliancy in the EU. The only caveat about that is the GPSR does say that safety information does need to be in the language of the consumer, basically who you've sold it to. Now you might be thinking, oh my gosh, about that, but a way around that is that you would use a symbol that could be used. I know on the UK ones you've got a little warning triangle, and it's got a flame on there. So that same symbol could be used in the EU to specify that this product that's its safety warning. Now, if you didn't have that, you would have to, unfortunately, have some paperwork with the product, putting the safety notification in the language that you were going to sell it to. So if it's in Germany, it would have to be in German, and they're not going to move on that. There's some information that they would, for example, QR codes would be very useful on a bit of documentation to have a QR code that would then for someone can scan to find out all the safety information, instructions, whatever, in the language that they want. But unfortunately, you will not let you do that yet, not for safety information. And you can see why. It's the furniture turns up, nice table again, or nice chair, and if you're in Romania and list things in English, and you could just ignore the warning, couldn't you? And then use it inappropriately, and there'd be an incident. So safety warnings have to be in the language of the actual way you're going to, and that would be part of your your risk analysis again for your. Going back to the wooden product, it would be just ensuring that the products, the things you've made to actually make the product are safe. The wood, that's obviously, that is a problem with that. But again, your varnish could potentially have something in it. But if it's safe for the UK, it's generally going to be safe. Only if you've got a warning warning on your UK product, the same amount of warning will do for the UK for the EU. You just might have to do a little bit of work, maybe on the translation front.
I think
just to on you go, Darren.
Sorry, no, go on. I'll come back on that one.
And to confirm, this isn't something that you need to do all of the documentation everywhere in multiple languages. This is just your safety, your stamps that are saying this is what it is.
Yeah, so I see safety instructions do unfortunately need to be that, but again, a lot of people use the assign. If you've got something that something that could be a toy, but isn't a toy, like an adult model or something like that, then you could obviously put a symbol of a child and then put 0 to 12 or something, and put a line for it, and that works in every language, of course. So
and how about So someone here has asked, it's a really good question. So if the case of a symbol would suffice, example denoting the product, something denoting the product would not, the product not being suitable for children and not being edible. So it is a case of a tag that has that information on it, and that
absolutely, again, you again a similar thing. You would use the same in the UK. Again, the safety standards, we've only diverted from the EU 5 years, 6 years ago, so a lot of the same standards are still applicable. So generally if it's safe for the UK, it's going to be safe. We're just going to have to slightly alter things to show the you know, which country you're going to. But again, a symbol would generally do. So a lot of stuff might not necessarily have to be relabeled. And you wouldn't relabel anyway. So if you've got products that have already been made and they've already got, you know, say a back to them, and you present your product, you've got a back piece of cardboard with your information on there. At the next time that product gets the back updated, then you would update your information, of course. But up until that point, it's very reasonable to put a compliment slip in, and with pertinent information on your compliment slip, and that would suffice, including safety information. And so and that means you don't, obviously, no one wants, or you know, to have to repackage everything just because of this legislation. So a way of getting around it is a compliment slip. With safety information on it, and also to show your GPSR compliancy, because that is something else that has to be put on the product. And well, again, Jack, you know about this because you have to go on the back of your magazine as a label, doesn't it? So and again, your EU rep will help you with all those little labeling issues, or any questions you've got. They will talk to you about those and what you need to do. But for the majority of people that we've seen, the amount of work they've had to do on the labeling isn't as much as people probably worrying about. Because they can just use a temporary method of a compliment slip until they update their proper labeling. And we say you update your labeling properly on your packaging, because over time you don't want to keep putting a leaflet in, and you update that all the time anyway. Generally, products change, new products come in, and you update the backs anyway. And also you got to put your name on it, and if you put your name on it, it's a little bit of, well, you know, manufactured by who you are. And it doesn't sound much, but somebody might look at that. Could be a little bit of form of advertising. You do need to put it on there, but you know, so it's not as bad as it sounds for the labeling front. But the risk, I talk about the risk analysis. Again, your EU rep should be able to help you out with any of those documentation bits that you need, or give you guidelines to what you need to do to actually create this this risk analysis procedure that you will then, you know, use. And to be honest, you should be doing this anyway. You know, you want to ensure that all your products are safe, and I bet you do. Everyone does. They do it when they create a new thing. They go, okay, they do this. And they go, oh, I won't do this because that might cause harm or something, or I won't use this paint because it's dodgy or whatever. So you're doing it anyway. All we're saying is, if you show the EU rep what your procedure you're going to do, then you know, and you're going to adhere to it, then you're just keeping everyone safe. So you probably should be doing it anyway, and you probably are. It's just documenting the fact.
Daran?
Okay.
Yeah, I just had a quick one about the languages that the warnings are on and so on. It's particularly important for the wholesale sort of industry. I know a lot of the people watching today are sort of from the crafts, and a lot of them are individual, or, you know, and small batches and so on. But if you are wholesaling into Europe, then there's any safety warnings and so on in the language is going to be really important. Otherwise, they're just not going to order from you. And that's so. If you want to sort of close those deals at that point, you need to just make sure that you know, if you're selling 5,000 to France or something, they're not going to take it. That's the problem. They'll say, no, we're not going to take it, because remember, although you're importing goods into the European Union, if you're going for a distributor, wholesaler, and so on, they also take on the responsibilities as the seller on as well. So they can't import those goods, which obviously will affect your business. So I know that you know, there probably will be, especially the people that are doing yarns and you know, fabrics and so on. They're doing a lot of wholesale and so on into the European Union. Just think about that. Make sure that if there are safety warnings and so on. But as Kevin said, you know, there's a common sense approach to this whole thing. If it's safe enough for the UK, it's generally safe for the for Europe. There is talk about GPSR in the UK, which will probably come in as well in the next couple of years. So whatever you're doing now, or for GPSR, will also cover you once the legislation comes in from the UK side. Because remember, the UK has come out of the European Union, but they're still in Europe, and your biggest market is in Europe. It's just how you crack that market. We'll go into that a little bit from the IOSS side, because that's more about growth. But it's important that you engage with, like, obviously Ireland and obviously the Northern Ireland. Everyone knows that that's also affected for the goods. But you've got partners in there with obviously Ireland straight there. You don't want to be excluding those people either. So, but obviously you don't want to be cutting off any part of the market, because it's open to you. It just needs that little bit of help getting you there, which isn't that hard.
Okay, so
two very quick things to add in. One thing for anyone watching or listening as well, to echo what Kevin said, is this is all probably stuff you're already doing. Like you're making the decisions to use non-VOC varnishes if you're a woodworker, not lead paint. A lot of these decisions are already being made. It does seem like a huge job to get all of the legislation and all of the paperwork to get all this together. It's really not. It was one phone call for us. I mean, we have a simple product in the fact it's a magazine, but if you have a supplier that is supplying you with X, Y, or Z, they already have to comply to this, so they will have that data on hand, and they will have those sheets on hand. I do a lot of this in my other job in engineering, where I have to speak, like today, for example, I had to speak to a gearbox manufacturer and get all of his data so that I could use his gearbox in a UK-made product. That is pretty standard operation. It just doesn't seem as standard to us in the craft world, because our hands haven't been forced to do it this far. And one other question before we move on, one from Lizzie here, is what if people are doing a one-off one? How does that affect things, Kevin, Daran?
Unfortunately, you are still selling and placing that product into the EU, and they haven't got a numbers thing. That they say if you place that product into the EU market, even if it's just 1 or 1 million or 1 billion, unfortunately, okay. Let's be honest. What's the chances of you being caught if you place one product onto the market and you give it to one and then you never do anything else again? It's negligible. But most people just don't do one thing. They're producing things, they're producing their craft, and they're selling to the market. So you're not just doing one. But to be honest, I know. From a regulatory side of it, you should be doing something. But if you just have one thing, yes, all we're ever going to do, and it's reasonably benign product or whatever, then you could you could do it without doing this work. But remember, you are actually, you are the one who's responsible for this. So at the end of the day, if it actually if someone does find out about this, and they find out it's you, in theory there are fines that they could do, depending on the seriousness of the product. We already, I think, Darren, we already know that they're not gonna. That you've heard about £10,000 fines. No one's going to get these 10,000 fines without serious striking off a warning first. Maybe another warning about what you're doing. So. Unless there's a very bad, incident, like Darren's had, he ordered some hair straighteners or something from China, gave to his daughter, and within a couple of hours they're in flames. And in theory, before GPSR, you might not be able to actually put the blame for that on somebody. Now they would go to that responsible person and find out what happened, and then you'd have to produce all your risk analysis. Where's your safety test here for this electrical product? Why, so that's why the market cannot now hopefully be flooded without actually using a responsible person in the EU, and that's what they want. It seems to me like a common sense approach to stop that type of thing happening. So and it is, GPSR is aimed at much bigger producers than probably we all are. But unfortunately, because it covers everything, we're all caught up in it. So unfortunately, that's why just one product, a one-off, in theory, you should still be compliant with it. But again, if you look at the chances, 95% of all GPSR checks are getting done by customs. So they're the people you need to actually make sure that you're happy with your product. So if the one product you've ever produced goes through, whizzes through, and that's it, want me to say that, but if you're making 10,000 of these different things, your chances of getting caught without being compliant are a lot more. So
and just to confirm, what those customs officers are checking is they're checking your complement slip or on your packaging stroke product, wherever it has a GPSR.
Yeah, we suggest before GPSR started, we got into some of the trade talks and webinars, like yourselves. We're all in it now, but we were watching just to see what the implications were. And the advice was, if you are compliant, then on your packages, when you send them out to go through customs, you put a label on there saying that your GPSR compliant, who you are as the manufacturer, who your EU rep is, and you put that in your package. And that hopefully eases it through the customs. I'm not saying it won't be stopped, but if you've got two packages to check and one has got a slip on it and one hasn't got this label on it, which one do they get to check? And they'll open up the package and then they'll look for the regulations and see if you adhere to it. So that's how it works. We don't know how many people are getting caught yet. But we have heard, we go in the chats and we just have it search out for anybody and packages has been stopped. And I'm not saying there's a huge amount, but it does happen. So there are people checking.
So I want to do I just want to quit. We're actually getting quite a few questions in. My original plan was to wait till the end for questions, but
yeah, to that might be the best way. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, a lot of them are quite relevant. Yeah. So first question, I'll just work from the top to the bottom here. So one of the first things is, Chloe, I feel like the biggest barrier may be having an authorised representative. Would it be possible before racking up to outline options of obtaining one of these? So Chloe, I'll answer that one straight away. The guys, Daran and Kevin, are our representatives. So Daran, jump in at any point if I'm talking rubbish here, but it is just having someone in the EU whose door they can go knocking on if there's a problem, right?
Yeah, sort of. It's basically we hold a catalogue of your goods with your risk analysis. It's simple stuff. It's basically almost like a self-assessment of the products that you're selling. Yes. I've done some analysis on this, A, B, and C products, and we hold that for 10 years. If you think about the drop shipping models and all those type of things, obviously you've got people shipping goods in and out. This drop shipping model, this could be a killer for those, because obviously they don't even see any of the products coming from Asia coming straight into the European Union, got no interest. Obviously, if you were in a shop and you sold something that in the UK, and you had a shop selling something that and someone got it hurt, who do you take it back to? You take it back to the shop, right? Because they're the ones. Yes. And this is that same type of fun, same type of thing. So that sort of drop shipping model is probably going to go.
Great. So next question from Sam at Woven in the Bone. Shameless We Are Makers plug here. If anyone is free after this and wants to watch an amazing 6-minute documentary on our YouTube channel, we've got one with Sam at Woven at the Bone. But Sam's question is actually very similar to our setup. So Sam's a weaver. She sells cloths wholesale. And with regards to the dyes used in the cloth, my supplier will be able to supply a declaration, say they use REACH compliant dye stuffs, and she's really just asking, is this enough? And that's really similar to what we've done, isn't it? We've given you all the documentation for it. Yeah,
absolutely. And we've got a number of people that do fabrics already, and that's what I generally ask for. Yeah, they send those technical sheets from those chemical companies to show the dyes, and again, reach is one of the things we actually look for. So
Oh, great.
so yeah, so we take those, that's exactly what we do. We take those sheets and then we've got them, and again, that's part of that technical package that we keep for you on your behalf, so that if anybody did actually come asking, we can say, well, we've done our due diligence here. This stuff isn't dangerous. So when put with a natural product like a yarn, it's not going to cause any issues. Obviously, you could think where you could test it to the nth degree, but again, the common sense approach goes here. If your yarn is just cotton, and if your inks are all safe and approved, where's the safety issue? You don't need to test that final product, because the testing's already done on your raw materials before you've got it. So we take that and we say that is perfectly fine.
Perfect. Really good question here from both Shirley and Sarah. Now, they both work with recycled product. So, for example, here, Shirley has, I'm just checking, it was definitely Shirley. Yep. So she uses, if I use recycled materials such as reclaimed wood with areas of weathered old paint in the form of sculptured assemblages, there is no way of knowing if the paint is lead. How does it stand for reclaimed and recycled goods?
I think under the legislation that we've interpreted, where unfortunately that doesn't come under the remit of being actually excluded. So that actually comes, it comes under a GPSR as you'd expect. The paint itself, well, you take responsibility for it. Okay, why don't you just put a warning with the paint? Don't let a child suck on this paint. It's not a toy. This, I imagine what you're creating there is pretty much a work of art that can sit. It's going to sit nicely on a wardrobe, it's just whatever, and it's going to be looked at, and nothing else is going to happen to it. So maybe you would aim your warning towards just make sure that no children don't do this. So this, that sort of thing as part of your risk analysis. Yeah, you're right. You can't tell what that paint was, but if you're going to produce these goods, then as long as you warn people about it, as part of your blurb in the box, of course, you would say this is all naturally, we've taken this from the sea, we've done this, we've done that, and if you put it as part of your instructions, to say that this, that we don't know the source of this, but you've given them a warning, then that should suffice. Again, it's the warning is the important bit, because it's about safety. You're not, basically you're telling them this potentially could have paint in it, and a lead-based paint, but so be obvious, don't give it to your kids to eat.
Yeah, and I mean, surely, Sarah, this kind of comes under the risk assessment side of it. And by the way, for anyone that is on this, you're welcome to my risk assessment template. It's it's been accepted by Netflix and Warner Brothers and stuff, so it obviously does the job. But it really is a case of, what is the risk? The risk is ingesting lead paint. What is the mitigation? This is not an ingestible product.
Yeah.
What is the risk outcome? Very low, because it's not an ingestible product. Another question here from Jim Bond. How much, well, this is a great one. How much do EUify charge to be EU reps, and can my gallery be my EU rep? So Jim must have a gallery and someone representing his work. Can they be his EU rep?
We'll get through the first question first. The price. We'll give you our EUify price, just only so that if you've had other quotes in it, if it meets the ballpark. Our average charge for all crafters is €30 a month. There's a one-off onboarding charge, because in the initial bit of the work, obviously we have to get things set up. So it works out €30 a month going forward. Usually what we base our stuff is on risk of the product and the number of SKUs. So if you've got 3,000, 4,000 products, and you're also selling supplements and a bit more jewelry, we have to there's a bit more stuff with jewelry safety, and then you might hit towards the top end 50 or something like that. But generally, crafters hit down towards the 30. That's the average. So and again, obviously, at least that when you ask other people, that's around that figure we think that people should be going for. So in regard to actually your works of art in, so I imagine that the gallery is in Europe. Actually, that's yeah. Actually, never thought about this. If the product is if it's actually imported, it goes across a border. You're gonna have to be GPSR compliant to go across that border, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, basically, the goods, the customs won't know. You know, it's a commercial activity when you're purchasing goods and so on. So obviously, if you're inside the union, you can actually, you'll be the importer if you wanted to import those goods. If it's yourself, that's not, shouldn't be a problem. If you own the company, are you saying that we own the company outside in the UK?
I think it's a gallery that represents them by the sounds of things. Jim, feel free to jump in on the comments and tell me if I'm wrong. But it sounds like it's a gallery that represents them. So it sounds like the gallery is doing the EU to EU custom. At some point, he's imported it.
Oh, I see. Yeah. So basically, if it's a gallery, let's say it's in London, and they're a gallery for obviously different artists, they're the ones actually doing the sell into let's say into the European Union. They would be the ones responsible for GPSR.
Yeah,
not the artist.
It doesn't even matter if there's actually any. The product can be actually have zero value, couldn't it? And you still, if you're placing it in the market in the EU, then you need to be compliant.
You need to be compliant, but that would be the gallery, yes. So the gallery would be the ones responsible because they're the ones ultimately which would, if they're just representing the art, it's who's doing the sell basically. So if it's in a catalogue,
so what happens? They take a commission, don't they? Generally,
yeah. Typically, a gallery would work in. So galleries work in one of two ways. They'll have a display piece on board, and then you buy something based on the display piece. So in which case, I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, Jim would have to send everything over direct to customer, or a gallery works in the opposite way, where Jim sends the actual piece to the gallery, and then the customer buys the actual piece. So that would be, at which point it would have already been GPSR compliant, in which time it came in, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So basically, so it really all depends on where the sale comes through, who's putting it on the market, basically. Yeah, because obviously ultimately you take on the responsibility of the sale. So obviously, if you can ask your gallery to say, okay, you do the actual sell, then obviously you won't need to be GPSR compliant. They'll just ask you for particular information about it, and obviously, they know that from the risk analysis they would do that being GPSR compliant with an EU rep. So.
Yeah. Chloe asked a question there. I noticed, Chloe, you've redacted it, but I don't think it's a bad question to pull up very quickly, Darren, because you'll be able to answer this. So what Chloe was talking about is you pay the onboarding charge and then pay the fee when you send a product over. I know we personally pay that fee every month. If you're doing, say, one every 6 months on a high-ticket item or every 4 months, is it still the case that you pay that every single month because, Darren, EUify is still a representative throughout that time? That's correct, right?
Yeah, well, on GPSR, if you're offering anything to the European Union on a digital platform, then you're deemed to be attempting to sell that to on the EU market. Sounds a bit really weird type thing, because obviously it's very hard to obscure, saying, well, if you're from the European Union, we're going to take this off, these products away, so you can't even see them. But yeah, if you're presenting to goods to the European Union, then
it can be compliant.
You don't know when the sale's going to come through, so you would need to be. If you're only having 3, obviously, if you're sort of saying, we do have clients who say, we only do 3 or 4. Sometimes 3 or 4 products over the whole year, but we don't know whether that's going to be 10 products over the year, 20 products, and so on. So unfortunately, we've got to cover ourselves as well, because obviously, there are rules on us as an as a responsible person, which obviously is in the name. Yeah, so we've got to make sure that we don't know how many goods you're going to sell. That's the problem with it. Over the top of the year.
Yeah, it's like this game for GPSR, whereas IOSS is for the charging structure, but for actually being the compliance side of things. And as Daran says, the fact that you don't sell anything to the EU, but you advertise to them, you probably have to be compliant to do the advertising, because anybody could buy something. So you should be compliant all that time. Unfortunately, if you only sell one or two, it's a real shame, of course. But if
under IOSS, potentially under the IOSS scheme, we could. A deal could, we could work out a deal, because obviously we'll know how much you're selling into the European Union, because obviously you're part of the scheme. And there, in that point, we do need to know, and we will know how much you're selling into the European Union. And you'll say, okay, if you're only doing 4 or 5 a year, then we'll work out a different type of thing, because obviously, we want you to stay in business, not to say cut off the market. We want you to stay in business, so we work out something and say, a slightly different costing structure, and it could be a quarterly bill as opposed to and so on. We're pretty flexible in the way we work.
We try to be doing,
but the thing is, it's always the unknowns, isn't it? And that's the problem.
So as a follow-on to that, Chloe's asked, would they be tied into life? They're not tied into life, are they? You're only tied on as long as you're selling to the EU. So if Chloe was then to close our EU shop, at that point, she wouldn't have to continue to pay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I mean, we've had some people have asked this because they're nervous about getting into the actual actually selling, and they don't know what's going to happen. And so we can say this now. It's on public record that we don't hold people to. Our contract says a year. But if you can say, sorry, it just hasn't worked out for us, we're not going to hold you to that. So we'll terminate when we're not nasty or anything like that. If we understand your issues, because you can always come back, and hopefully things pick up. So but obviously if it doesn't mean don't try and give up every after a month and then go back on it again, come back on again. So but we're not again, it says 12 months in there, but we never really hold anybody to it.
Great. So one other question on you go, Dan.
Well, I mean, we're pretty much pro business at the end of the day. If it doesn't work for you, then it doesn't work for us as well. So, and we want you to stay. Some of our IOSS clients, obviously Jack being one of ours. You look at his contract. There's nothing in there which actually ties him in. So if they want to go, they go. Yeah, it's your pleasure to do that.
I'll be really honest. And on public record, I didn't even look at my GSPR contract because our IOSS dealings with you was so good. So I just went with it. Didn't bother me. So I don't know what I've signed up for, Daran. One other question.
I'll send it all.
A great question from Lizzie Chalmers, actually, because I think a lot of people are in this position. And the wording isn't very conducive to the craft market in this way. So Lizzie's asked, she makes custom jewellery. Now, Lizzie, jump in the chat box if I'm not describing this right, but I think I am. So, say Lizzie, for example, is making a gold ring, right? Each of those gold rings may look slightly different, but they're obviously using the same materials. They're the same in essence. One might be slightly more round than the other, one might be hexagonal, etc. Her GPSR and her risk assessment, surely that can be done for a Lizzie Chambers gold ring. It doesn't have to be done for Lizzie Chambers gold ring number 362.
No, absolutely, yeah. It's so for things like the jewelry and stuff, we would say for your risk assessment, it would contain maybe a thing in there just saying that you've made sure that the piece of metal that you're working on has come from someone reputable, and you can attest the quality of it, and that you make the piece to a particular specification, i.e., no sharp edges. She's going to do that as a work, she's going to make sure that's all fine anyway. Again, for the product list, you might just say ring of various designs, and that will be one screw in a product list, and that's how we would deal it. I wouldn't deal every single different variation of the ring, because they're all different, aren't they? Every time you make it something different like that, it'll be slightly different. So So for our costing purposes, if that's what he's interested in, it would be one product saying a gold ring, and then it'd only be different if we had all the different designs would be under that one screw, shall we say. But if she had extra elements to it, like one had a bit of diamond in it, one had a ruby in there, then we should say that's a ruby ring, a diamond ring, or whatever. And again, risk analysis document, we find that most people have one risk assessment document, procedure for all their products, because there's generally
which is what we have.
Exactly. And you don't need to have one for every single different product that you've got. It's having one all-encompassing risk analysis document procedure that covers everything. That's why, and it's overarching, so it would say for jewelry, if it's a particular type, make sure, it's no nickel in, your silver or something like that, because there are obviously certain allergies and stuff like that. And it would say, you might put an allergy warning on your non-precious metals, rings. So, and that would just be that one document, and you could apply it to everything, So it should be relatively easy for her to actually to do this work anyway.
Well, Jack's just had to nip to the toilet quickly, so I'm going to ask the next question. One of them was digital products. How does that fall in within the regular?
Yeah, unfortunately, digital products, it's, as Darren said before, GPSR it's built for today, but it's also built for the future. So they've included digital products because they will be part of the future. But there's a different, we've got a couple of customers already that do PDFs and their patterns for certain things. And so their patterns and the risk analysis actually doesn't go on the actual pattern itself, because what the product actually supplying is, it's digital, isn't it? It's something that they can print out. So the actual user prints out piece of paper and then follows the pattern. So our risk analysis for her, or typically this other client, would have been have you made the PDF safe? I.e., do you create it in an environment where you hopefully didn't get a virus attached to it, or a bit of malware attached to it? Because it's a digital product.
Wow.
That's how you think about it. Yeah. So that's because the actual product for GPSR is actually that digital record of how of a pattern. It's not actually the pattern itself, because the customer prints that out, and they can see it on their screen. They don't really have to print it out. So her risk analysis is purely a very easy one. I make sure that I run an antivirus on my machine, and some other little bits. Some people run a special profile for doing it so that nobody has to log in, and that's what you just say. And again, we do read people's strangely, we do read their procedures just to make sure that no one's just completely made up the whole thing, and make sure it's it's actually for their product range. So again, as your EU rep should be able to help you with whatever your product is. They should be able to help you create that risk analysis document, and hone it for your particular products. So again, we can help. But yeah, unfortunately, digital products. Katie there thought, wow, because it's a different way of thinking for a digital one, isn't it? And that's so it's probably what's not contained in it. This is making sure that when you deliver it to somebody, that their machine doesn't get infected by a virus, because that would be the bad thing, wouldn't it? So it's just doing things like that to make sure that you don't do something. I imagine, to be honest, that's all sorted out by if you put it onto a platform where it's sold, maybe Etsy. I don't know how they do it, but again, they'd run programs against your file to make sure that it was safe as well. But it doesn't matter. You still got to do your little bit. And yeah, again, it's this future thing. It's this thing. Unfortunately, what is safe now, PDF now? Who knows how they're going to use it 20 years down the line? And that's why they're saying software, anything like that, needs to be covered by GPSR. Unfortunately.
Great. Very quickly, one last question with GPSR, and then we can move on to some IOSS bonus content. As bonus as it is. So very quickly, can you just run over what the onboarding fee and the monthly fee was again for your
yes.
GPSR?
Yeah, so generally, again, the average of all the crafting people that we've taken on so far is 30 euros a month, and we have a one-off onboarding charge of 95 euros. We do ask you for some information, but every EU rep would ask you that, just make sure you identify who you are. So there's some work we need to do there, and we do things like go onto the safety gate and set up a little profile for yourselves and that sort of stuff. So it's 95 for the onboarding. It's a one-off, and then we do also offer. I'll just say about us. Your EU rep may offer you. We do give a little discount of a month if you pay a year in advance, and that helps some people out. They asked us to do that. We didn't offer it, but we thought, well, okay, if it helps people do it, then that's a new thing we've just done a couple of months ago. So, and some people like that as well, and also keeps the number of invoices down. As part of your responsibility, we keep all your information for 10 years. So we've got to obviously put that infrastructure in place. And in fact, you've got a liability as well to do that as well. So it's because of supply chain. We need to know maybe where you got a particular item from, and you need to keep that information for 10 years as well. So again, and that's probably common sense anyway. Probably you know that already. So so that's so 30 is about the average.
Fab. So very quickly want to touch, because the unfortunate big brother to GPSR is IOSS. Daran, can you give us a very quick top level IOSS? Because so for anyone watching this, IOSS is actually how we first ended up going with EUify. We were paying an unbelievable amount of money for far too long for our IOSS. I think we left them over a year ago, and we were still getting invoices for them like weeks later, just wrong invoice. It was just a mess. It was a total mess. But IOSS is Daran.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, for a lot of people, IOSS is just talks about VAT or postal services. So you might be using it if you're on Etsy, or you might be using IOSS already. The big marketplace platforms, they collect the VAT and they also pay the VAT. That's why Etsy give you the IOSS number. Basically, the IOSS number is for low value goods coming into the European Union, 150 euros excluding VAT and shipping costs. This is pretty easy to set up, but the benefits are massive. If you want to compete in the European Union of 450 million people, then you need to be on an even keel with the rest of with the rest of your competitors and so on. I'll give you a quick example. I purchased a watch strap for my iWatch. This watch strap cost me 40 euros from a UK website. Unfortunately, I bought it from a UK website, not really checking any of the details. When it arrived, I had to pay 30 euros customs fees on top. So you can see, one thing, I would never buy from that company again, and two, the next time I would just, would I recommend it to somebody else? No. And the next time I'll just say, well, I'll send it back. And then, which is basically what's happening at the moment. So when somebody, if you're sending goods over to the European Union, sometimes people say, yeah, they don't mind picking up, our clients don't mind paying the import VAT. And there's also that sort of perception that it could get through, and the client might not be able, might not pick up any fees. That doesn't work. Every item coming into the European Union since 2021 has to have a value declared, and that will, if your customer hasn't paid it, then somebody's got to pay for it, and it's usually if you haven't paid it, then the customer has to. That's not always the problem. We had a client this week which actually sent some chocolates over. It was 44 euros, and they picked up customs fees going. This is going to Spain. I think it was about 55 euros in customs fees. So
I was going to just add that our previous IOSS company, and if there is any customers that this has happened to before, I can only apologise. We sell a £16 magazine, and previously we did have customers getting £20, £25, £30 charges because the IOSS people just don't know what to charge them, so they charge them as much as they can.
Yeah. I mean, each member state. I mean, it doesn't matter what somebody's, the politics in the UK. Every European member state is a sovereign nation, and they have their own rules about how goods come in. So some are a little bit easier to get their goods in, and so on. If you want to be in a competitive market, then you need to sell goods into on the level field. So all you're doing under IOSS is actually what you were doing before the UK. Or before you left, the UK left the European Union. So basically all you're doing is collecting VAT from European clients, and you pay that money back because all VAT belongs to governments, whether it's the UK or independent states in the EU. That money so you collect the VAT from those customers, you pay it back to the European Union through an intermediary, which is us. And then basically your goods are just posted to the European clients. They don't pick up any customs fees, and they don't have to pay anything extra for those packages. So it's a smooth operation. Yeah,
one of the things that for us was really beneficial is each member is an international, like they're their own nation, their own sovereign state, as you say, Darren. And the real problem with that is previously we had to log on to the Italians, we had to pay all these individual VAT prices, and you're just sending one, it was a day's worth of work every couple of months at least. Whereas obviously now we just pay it direct to you guys. Sam's asked a good question. She's not VAT registered in the UK. How does that work for her from the EU point of view? Just to clarify, it's completely different from UK VAT. It's just also called VAT.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so basically, from the UK side, if you're not, we have quite a few clients who are sole proprietors, or sort of entrepreneurs. They're not VAT registered. But this scheme is a VAT number, okay? So and it's a European-wide one for all 27 member states and Northern Ireland, because obviously some people think, well, why does it affect Northern Ireland? Well, because the actual border for Northern Ireland, which is why GPSR is exactly the same, is that the border is in the Irish Sea. So still a lot of people don't sort of understand how that works, but any goods going over need to be compliant with obviously the GPSR, but IOSS as well, because basically there's two tax systems. The European one overrides the UK one. It's not really a big problem because but going back to the original question, no, you don't have to be you don't have to worry about your UK sort of side. You don't have to be VAT registered in the UK. The EU's VAT system is completely different and absolutely zero to do with the UK.
Yeah, I just highly recommend makers look into it at least, and it's not that expensive either, is it? I think we pay like 25. I can't remember. Is it 25?
Yeah, you've got Darren, tell us the graded system, because you're the only people that I know that do it dependent on how many copies or PCs you sell, right?
Yeah, so we build on a basis of how many packages you send. There's other people that do it on how much sort of declared values and all those type of things. But as you start growing, it gets a lot more expensive and everything else. But anyway, we're not going to be talking about what everybody else is doing. What we're doing is we do it on a tier system. So basically, we know that most entrepreneurs, all businesses go through seasonal trends and everything else. So basically, it's not a fixed fee. Depending on how many, if you're shipping 50 packages, it's going to cost you €50. Which if you're doing DDP type of, which is duty delivery paid, so your pack, it's going to cost you sort of €6 minimum to actually send a particular package. So it's a hell of a lot more cheaper doing it that through IOSS, as you know. And there's really no paperwork. I mean, you guys, you get a statement every. We just hook straight into your Shopify account. We only have access to their orders. We download it. We calculate it. You get a, you know, at the end of the month, you get a statement. You agree with it, you pay the bill, and we don't really talk too much.
Basically, I literally get an email once a month, and I'm like, great, it's all sorted, paid, and I don't have to think about it. It's wonderful.
I think this call is the most we've ever spoke to Daran and Kevin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
which is a good sign.
Yeah,
no, it is.
What you want.
I think the IOSS scheme is a VAT system, but you've also got to think that it's actually to remain competitive, and it'll grow. A lot of people spend a lot of money trying to get their in advertising fees, getting their clients into their stores. Once they're there, if they think that they're going to buy, let's say, look, you've got a .co.uk. Sometimes we actually recommend using obviously a .net and so on. We have clients that their .com outsells their .co.uk by 6 to 7 to 8 to 1. So I'm not quite sure about how they're advertising those type of ones, but what does it mean? I mean, I've gave you a demonstration about what it means to us as British people inside the European Union. We're ordering, if it's a .co.uk, I start looking at their shipping policies, because I don't want to be taking extra fees for the products. But at that point, if I'm looking at, people's shipping policies, and it's not clearly defined that you're paying, you're covering the taxes. Yeah, I'm sort of like, okay, it's a way I'm off. I'll go somewhere else, because there's thousands of other websites I can go to, buy the same products inside the union without that risk. If you're doing, you can imagine if you're doing a subscription system. Obviously, I mean, we know that you guys do it as well. A subscription system. Nobody is ever going to sign up for a subscription system where you're picking up extra fees every time, because you don't know what those fees are.
Exactly why we had to do it. Yep.
And so I would say that in IOSS, for us, it's like a no-brainer from our side, but it doesn't work just on its own. So you need to remember, the UK is damaged goods for European customers. I'm sorry to say, I mean, obviously I'm British myself and so on, but the textiles or the fashion industry imports into the European Union from the UK, which is a world leader in fashion wear and so on, has dropped by 40%. Why is that? Well, yeah, if I buy 2 pairs of jeans at €100 and nobody's covering the costs, not only am I picking up VAT, I'm picking up a customs fee, and if the goods came from Asia, it'll be a 12% duty on those products as well. So you're talking at least 33 to 34% on top of the original value. And will it be delivered to my house? This is all about customer experience, right? So if you want to give your customers a great experience, just advertise it saying, look, we cover all the duties, all that sort of stuff. And especially if you've got like a .co.uk, you don't have to. I mean, obviously you can use different ones, but if you are using a .co.uk, you can still, but you just need to put those banners around just saying we're European friendly and all those type of things. We have sort of standard templates which we give to our clients, which actually sort of just say, yeah, these are the things to say and all those type of things, just to make sure that if you've spent advertising money to get those clients there, you want them to buy. So yeah, so the IOSS scheme, it does have a 150 limit, as I say. That covers most products, especially in the crafting sectors. Obviously, some of the handmade ones. We've had clients recently. We've had sort of £900, so it doesn't cover those. Although saying that, there is a proposal which is going towards the EU Commission this year, and they're proposing to scrap the 150 threshold altogether. So basically, consumer goods of any value can come in without any duties and so on. Now that's going to be massive for the especially for the UK sellers, because anything over that 150, who's going to cover the duties and so on? That really depends on the types of products that you're selling. But obviously, it's a damage. Without IOSS, it does damage your brand, and that's an unfortunate thing, because obviously, what social media, the way it is nowadays, if somebody's hacked off that they've had to pay an extra 30-40 euros to pick up their goods, which they originally purchased, then they're not going to be recommending you on to other people. And that's just the reality of it, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. Daran, is there a setup fee for IOSS with you? I can't quite remember.
Yeah, so there is an onboarding, but if they're a GPSR, then one of them will go free.
So right. Okay.
So we don't double it. Yeah. It's the same fee. So we wouldn't want to take any advantage on any of our clients on that sort of side. But obviously there is a bit of work to do on there. On onboarding fee, the Dutch tax authority is where we are, because each member state runs their IOSS slightly different. Just a little bit about the IOSS number itself. It's actually a confidential number. You might have the Etsy guys may think, oh yeah, we can, we know that Etsy's IOSS number and so on. Everybody else isn't. So the marketplace platform can, you can pick those up, but the everybody else is not. So you're not actually putting it on any packaging and all those type of things. All you're doing is you're giving it to your courier, Royal Mail, whoever it is. You give it to them on the portal, and off it goes. And that's all you need to do. So it's a pretty simple type thing. As I say, from a taxes point of view, we can hook in to your either your Shopify or whichever platform that you have. You can send us. You can even do an export of your data each month. You send it to us, we do the rest, and that's it, done. And then it's like being in the UK before Brexit. Send it out, it goes there. But obviously, the 150 limit. It does create a bit of an issue, because obviously those people buying a pair of jeans at 100 euros and then they put two in a basket, then it's over the limit. It's a little bit of a pain, but I think for most, for most it does work.
I must say, from our point of view, getting an email every month that just says pay this to the VAT office far outweighs the amount of custom we've been able to claw back. We lost 70% of our EU custom overnight, and we've probably clawed about 25-30% of that back, which we would not have been able to do without IOSS in place. One quick question, and then I'm going to just round up a few details, because we've got some great questions this evening. But this last one is really prominent, especially in the world at the minute. A lot of people are doing online courses, so not necessarily selling as a PDF, as we covered before, Kevin, but say like an online community or online group, and it's maybe just a digital subscription service. How is that affected by GPSR or IOSS?
Okay, I'll go on this one first.
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Online courses, actually, it's usually forgotten that under the OSS scheme, there's three flavors of it. There's the IOSS, which is the import scheme, so goods coming inside, being imported into the European Union. The OSS scheme is for goods inside, so you bulk ship, put it in the warehouse, and then you supply from inside. So that comes under OSS, which is it's almost identical. It's just one is an import of low values. The good thing about what the OSS is, once it's in a warehouse, it can be sold at any value. There's no limit, because it's already inside the European Union at that point. Now for digital products, there is the non-union scheme, and everything that you're selling to a European client should be going through the non-union scheme for digital products. So if you're downloading music, online courses, you're supposed to be charging those European clients, because VAT is a consumer tax. Businesses do not pay VAT. All they do is collect it and pay the difference back to the governments. So, and this is exactly the same. Obviously, if you're selling an online course to a European client, or a whole class of them, then you should be charging VAT. How's that enforced?
Yeah,
very hard. Very hard for the European Union to enforce that type of legislation. But from a tax point of view, that's what you're supposed to do. You can imagine something like, I don't know, Reg 123, you know, they do a lot of domain names and all those type of things. Yeah, they'll charge VAT all over Europe. It's all digital. But yeah, so that's what the law is. The enforcement of it is the big service providers and everything else, because we have certain clients who do some digital products and so on. Are they compliant? No, the majority aren't, to be honest. Do we have to enforce that? No. We're just an intermediary most of the time, and we have to follow the rules of the European Union just as the clients do, and so on. So there's no, if people don't want to opt for that scheme, there's just one thing about these two schemes. These schemes, you don't need an intermediary, so you don't need us. We can register it for you, but you don't actually need us on an ongoing basis. So that's OSS and the non-union scheme. So if you're doing digital courses, once you're set up, but don't fall for this one where you have to subscribe for the rest of your life to digital downloads. You can do it yourself, and it's pretty easy once you're set up.
Fab. That's amazing. So that's something I never knew about, that I'm certainly glad we do know about. Yep. So I'm conscious we're getting on time. So I just want to kind of wrap things up. First off, massive thanks to both Daran and Kevin for kind of just reiterating the conversations that we had at the very start. And I really do hope that for a lot of people that we've seen all these questions online, whether you're watching tonight or whether you come back and don't watch it live, then great. I just hope it's added a lot of value to what was a lot of noise on the internet about something that actually for us has been really, really simple. Also worth covering from Kate and I's point of view, we are in no way affiliated with EUify. We are not paid to say any of this. In fact, we pay them to say this. So we've just had such a good experience, and we have had our fingers, hands, elbows and armpits burnt by other companies. We've made all the mistakes, and for us this has been the company. So to Daran and Kevin, both publicly, a massive thank you from Kate and I for everything you've provided us, and I really hope more people can get something out of this. I mean, we covered a lot of costs and stuff. I suppose the best thing for people to do is to get in touch with you guys at EUify. Is EUify dot
EU. Yeah, so info at EUify.
Or GPSR at, yeah. And you know, we're here to, honestly, you can ask us any questions you like online, and email us, and we'll obviously come back to you and try and answer those questions. And we've got no problem doing that, obviously. And obviously, you know, there's other people out there. So, you know, we don't want this to all about us. It's all about just making sure that, you know, that ultimately it's definitely not going to be as bad as you think it's going to be.
You know, the best thing is being able to pick up the phone and be like, I have an issue, I have a question, I can speak to someone.
Yeah, actually, I'm actually UK based, so I've got my telephone number's on the bottom of our email, so it's very easy to give me a call. Just to let you know.
Yeah, I think the important thing for this whole thing is, you know, which has been important for Kate and Jack, is that we want you to, you know, regardless of whether you use our services or not, or you use somebody else, you know, you can shop around, obviously, but is that you stay in business. Because if you want to grow and you've got a massive, you know, 450 million people sitting on your doorstep, so please do not let them go. Oh, just one little thing about which we missed, which is quite important. A lot of the crafting sector have started their businesses on Etsy, and then they've sort of gone on and created their own website and so on. The amount of companies we see that say, okay, we don't want to use IOSS, so or register ourselves, so they try to put the sales over to IOSS, because obviously they cover, they give you the IOSS number, so you can import into. Every time you do that, you give away 25% or 20 to 25% of your profit. So just think about how you're growing. It's an easy trap to get into, but build your own brand. Your Etsy sites should be a complementary to your own brand and building your own future, because these guys obviously they've been really good to you because it's a great sort of platform for starting out and so on. But once you get to a certain size, giving away 20 to 25% of your profits to these platforms, you don't want to be doing that. You actually, a lot of our clients, whether they're on Zalando and all those type of things, the big marketplace of Amazons and of this world and so on. Some of them do it the opposite way around. They just put a limited stock on, but see our main website, because all your profits are in your investment in your own website. That's where you will grow mostly. And obviously, those people that can't, think, well, it's another. It seems like another tax with IOSS and this GPSR. But if you want to grow your business, invest your storefront, in your website. That's your shop front to the whole world. Invest in it.
I really want to drive home what Daran said there as well, because you don't own Etsy. And this is going off on a tangent away from GPSR and IOSS. You don't own that platform. If that platform shuts overnight, you lose all your customers. It's the same with Instagram. It's the same with your social medias. It's why Kate and I, you'll see us online banging on about newsletters and whatnot, which might be a future webinar. Sly plug. But really, the guys are right. These things are small little monthly costs, and I know that does eat into what you perceive your profit margin to be, but these small costs have allowed Kate and I to really grow our business to a point where we're now able to offer the grant fund. Our magazine's able to go out to hundreds of subscribers around the world, and we're able to do all these things because we don't have to worry about, what happens if we try and target Germany? What happens if we try and target France? Or it's all just dealt with, and that peace of mind to us is worth it as much as anything. So again, massive thank you to Daran and Kevin. Huge thank you to Kate as well. I know you've not seen her on here a lot. She's been manning the comments. She is there, and she is keeping everything from the background running smoothly. And again, thanks so much, guys. Thanks to everyone that logged on. I'm sure loads of people will watch it after the fact. But I know people like Ellen saying brains are fried. It does fry your brain a little bit. This is all new course for lots of us. Like I've said in the comments to a lot of people here, you're all more than welcome to our risk assessment, the one that I wrote for us. Just DM us on Instagram or drop us an email or whatever. And this is why we do it, right?
Great.
Yeah.
Guys, thanks again. We're going to call it at that. Thanks. Really, really good, guys. And everyone appreciates it. Cheers. Bye.
Okay. Bye. Bye.
And it finished. Nope. Is it still recording, Darren?
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it is. Yep. Log off.